Hey guys, welcome to a Wednesday webinar, which is something we're trying to do a bit more regularly. This is the second one that we're doing. Welcome to everybody. We're going to have just a brief look at Loki, which is a piece of software that we've had for a while, and it's always been a little bit hidden. And we just thought we would show you a little bit how it works. So we are, as always, busy making changes and busy making improvements. But I just thought I'd give you an idea of what it actually is. So essentially what Loki is a it's a tool to allow for automated image processing. And on the screen in front of you, you have a basic layout. The top is a typical Loki workflow, and the bottom is some processing examples that we have. So the idea is that we can have a manual input. In other words, we can go into Loki, set up a file, and set up a basic workflow and process that file. Or we can have a set of watch folders. In other words, folders that we've set up to receive files, and upon files being copied into the folders, a particular preset is triggered, and then processing is done based on that. The type of processing we can do inside Loki includes color transforms, applying LUTs, scaling, reformatting images, pretty much anything that we can do inside Nucoda, actually. And we can also use presets from Nucoda. The other and the most important part of what we do is that we have access to the DVO tools, which are purchased separately from Loki. And in here, for those of you who know, we got stuff like noise reduction, dry clean, dust removal, scratch removal, frame rate conversion, chromatic aberration, pretty much, you know, anything that you could do that you want to use for restoration. And then we have a file output. These are an example of some of the files that we have, and we have an output. So the idea really is that you can set up a workflow with folders that are being watched for material coming from a scanner to be cleaned up automatically and exported as a ProRes. And you could also set that to, you know, to process a material that you want to denoise before a grade, keeping the source timecode and the source clips, or just cleaning up the noise if you're going to use it somewhere else. And at the bottom here, we've got a processing example. So we have a watch folder. We got a preset to do some scaling. We can output that as ProRes to a particular output folder. We can have a second watch folder with a different preset, outputting to a different file format, outputting to a second folder, and that folder can be another watch folder. So as soon as it hits that watch folder, we can do a downscale, save it as H.264, and then output that to a third folder. And in this case, we would then have a denoised XDCAM version, and we will also have a web version or a browser version that's been downscaled and burnt in timecode has been added to that. So it's a very flexible workflow. You can pretty much set it up to do anything you need. And what I'm going to do is just show you Loki itself. Loki runs in Windows. It can run on multiple machines on the same network. You have a server, the idea of a server and of a node. So there's a nodal architecture, and then you have a client. And depending on what you want to do, we will send jobs to different nodes, provided that they're on shared storage. You know, we can pick up material from, or different nodes will pick up material and process them. So just to give you an idea of the way that it works, when we go into Loki, it is really quite straightforward. Across the top, we've got presets and jobs, watch folders. We've got some tools like a test pattern generator and that kind of thing. We have some settings, so you can email yourself when the job is done, or send your job to a particular FTP site. And this is something that we want to expand to include things like WeTransfer or Dropbox. And then you've got some monitoring here. So we can see here that my machine is called Pride. That's the only node connected, and I've got currently one watch folder active on this system. So what we're going to do is, the idea is let's create a new preset, and we'll call this preset scaling. I'm not going to provide any input video. I can put a file straight in here by browsing to it and just processing the file. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set this up for processing. So in my scaling, I'm not going to, I'm just going to use the built-in scaling in that's available. So I'm going to just going to use fit. My resolution that I want to use is 1920 by 1080 frame rate, and I want to export this as ProRes. I don't want to add any burn-ins. I have no other options, nothing like that. This is all I want to do. Is I just want to do some scaling over here. Now I can make another preset, which is can maybe be a bit more elaborate. So I can use, let's call it color and noise, for example. And on this particular preset, what we're going to do is I've got the color conversion matrix here, and I'm going to say I would like to convert from Alexa wide gamut to let's say P3 PQ. Up convert, there we go. So I'm going to say I want to use DVO zoom. I have a progressive source, and if I want to, depending on what I want to do, I can also use this to scene detect, or as I said before, use an existing note. But this is going to do a color convert, or an up convert and then a color convert. And I want to export this to UHD. So it's going to do the up conversion using that. And I want to save this as ProRes. I can go to my burn-in window and ask for burnt-in timecode. Give it a variable, so I want source timecode burnt in, and I can just go and move that around to where I want. Set the opacity, and then I can save that preset. Now, once I've done this, I've set up a few presets. What I can do now is to go to my watch folder settings, and I'm going to make a new watch folder. Let's call it scale. And I would set this up as where I want to get my material from. So watch folder 1, I want to use the scaling preset. The output file path, I want to be output 1. Once it's done, I want to move the original file to the complete folder. And if it failed, I want it to move to the failed folder. And what I want to do is append a file name called zoom to this. Right, now the watch folder is enabled. So you'll see now in the monitoring we've got the scaling watch folder, and I can have multiples here. And what I'm going to do is take some material and copy it in there. So it's going to take a few seconds, and we should see, yeah, there's something odd going here. I think somebody else in the office has got another node running. Maybe not. Let's have a look. Yeah, no, I'm afraid there's something wrong here. It's telling me that it's failed. But what will happen in a case like this is whatever I add into watch folder 1 will get output to the output folder here, and the completed files will be copied to complete when it's done. As you can see, because it's failed, it's actually put it in the right place. So that's a small consolation, but unfortunately, not exactly what I wanted to show you. But that is very often what happens when we work with brand new software that's still in development. We've been making lots of changes to this version of Loki. So something else that we've added that's not in this particular build will be the ability to actually process or render Phoenix and Ucoda projects. It's something that we are testing at this point. It will require you to have shared storage, but it will allow you to import a Phoenix or a Ucoda project and actually render that to the same shared storage, so you can keep working on your system while Loki is actually processing in the background. It will process. You don't need the DVOs, for example, to process. So if you've got a Phoenix, if you have a Phoenix product, Loki will process whatever is in your timeline. So you don't need to have the DVOs available to process them inside Loki. It's only if you want to use those DVOs in Loki to create a new bespoke preset. So that's kind of it for Loki. It's really quite straightforward. We'll be adding some more output formats to this, and I know there's one of the participants, Max. I know you're interested in FFE1, so that we'll make it in here. We're trying to, or we will generally sync our Loki and our Ucoda releases and Phoenix releases so that they have the same release or the same release number, because it makes it much easier for us to do stuff with the projects. So we've got a few people using Loki very successfully in fairly complex workflows. We have a broadcaster who's scanning 2K. That goes into, that's actually manually checked. That goes into a watch folder, which creates a 1920 by 1080 letterboxed version, which is then dry cleaned and saved as XDCAM. That XDCAM is then reprocessed to H.264 with burnt-in timecode, and the customer ends up with the original 2K, the cleaned up HD, which is ready for broadcast as an XDCAM, and then the web browsable H.264 version. And they can always refer back to the full 2K version if they need more cleanup or anything more specific. But they're running 24 hours a day, and they are really using it to repurpose a lot of their news library, which is just being literally scanned and cleaned up and put into it's being loaded onto a server and the guys in the newsroom or working for the broadcaster has got have got immediate access to that, and they can use that. So yeah, that's it really for this. If you've got any questions, please, you can email us, sales@digitalvision.world, or go to www.digitalvision.world, which is our new website. And we're happy to set you up with Loki license if you want to have a look, see what it can do for you. And I hope you've learned something. I'm sorry I couldn't show it processing. It was all good until literally 5 minutes before we started. So that's typical, unfortunately. But we'll have another one soon, and we can have another look then. So thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.